So, whoa, what is this crazy thing? I don't know, let's check it out. Okay, insert a recipe. Let's put it in this one. So what this is, guys, is it is a auto crafter. And why this is so cool is because not only is it an auto crafter, it is a programmable auto crafter. So let's put in a recipe for a comparator or something like that. We already have a comparator one up here when we were messing around with it, but do that, and then you confirm the recipe, and then it basically puts it in this like short-term memory. So please wait. Your account is currently processing, or your transaction currently processing your request, whatever, same thing. So that's how it goes. Unfortunately, when it's memorizing, it has a bit of wait time. I'm doing a horrible job explaining this. Basically, what this thing is it's an autocrafter, but more than an autocrafter, it remembers recipes. And it remembers recipes, any recipe that you want, any recipe that's viable, pretty much. And I'll explain the way it works and stuff like that. So, okay, it's done. So, let's just say we're going to put it in 6. So we can remember it, which is the bottom row. 6, okay. So basically, it should be remembered soon. Currently processing your request. That should light up. It might not. Yeah, okay. We basically have to wait until that turns off. But this will memorize it. Not only will it memorize it, it memorizes up to 10. Right now, I just have it at 10 different possible combinations that it can remember. Like it can memorize 10 different recipes, but it has the potential to memorize up to as many as you can fit in a world border. And additionally, it can memorize literally every single recipe in the game. Right now, I only have it set up for a few recipes, but I'll go into all of this because this is like really cool what this does. So after that's done, we can use this, and basically what that does is it primes it and it multiplies one stack by the amount of time. So this is not only a crafter, like an auto crafter, since it's really slow, it's used for mass crafting. So basically, if you had a whole bunch of stuff that you needed to craft a lot of, this is how you would do it. And it's so that you have a supply and need demand thing. So this is just a quick example of how it's going to be used. Unfortunately, it's kind of slow, and it actually takes about 3 minutes for the entire thing to memorize something and then use it. But once you use it, it's in this, it's coming, it's in this quick select section where basically you can just, the recipe has been pre-memorized, so you don't have to insert the recipe again, and that saves a lot of time. Okay, so that's one, and here comes the second stack of stuff, because, yeah, timing and timers and stuff like that. And basically, you can do as many stacks as you want. The storage for this is massive, so I could put like 50 in here, and it would give me enough materials to make 50 stacks of repeaters. Anyways, without further ado, I figure I should just stop rambling and explain how this crazy thing works. So it is absolutely massive, but I want to make sure that you guys know that it's actually just one or two very simple parts that are just like repeating, and that's basically what makes it smart. So I broke it down into an individual slice. So right over here, you may notice that there's a slice. Each one of these is a slice, and this is one of those slices. So when I first put in the recipe, it goes around in this minecart, and a minecart would go over a hopper, and it would be able to recognize if the item matched. So for example, we have a slime block. So say there was a slime ball. Oops. So say there was a slime ball that got put into here. It would get memorized, and it would recognize that, oh, this is on. That means that, you know what? It's ready to memorize. And basically, what would happen is you can is that each one of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 can be selected to memorize that specific thing. So for example, let's say we go to 2. Let's say we go to 2. So I wanted to memorize, you would put an input in here, and I'd say, I want you to memorize it, or maybe this is 3, I'm not sure. I want you to memorize this one. Yeah, it's right here. So a item would go from this dropper into this dropper, and when it goes into this dropper, it's like basically an on-off switch. It's saying, yes, this recipe on this level requires a slime ball. So then it's stored in this memory, and that's stored permanently until, let's say, you wanted to forget it. And then when you forget it, it would power that, and it would put it back in there. Okay, just for our sake, we're going to grab our slime ball back again and put it back in here. And so it's powered again, and we're going to power the same one. I think it's this one. Maybe, maybe not. Whatever. It can memorize any of these, but I just don't want to fly too high. So say that we memorized it and we got the recipe right, whatever. This one slime ball recipe would go, can proceed that, and we can power this one, and that will basically activate a torch tower up here, and that would put that memorization of that thing saying there's a slime ball for that thing. So yes, we want this powered. So we will have a, unfortunately, I didn't put these in the right ones when I was copying it over. So basically, nothing would happen, and it would stay down like this. Now what this means is that you now have the ability that this would be powered. So normally there's a wire running along here, and that would get activated originally, and it would push the items over. Basically it's inverted. But essentially, if there's a slime ball in there, if there's a slime ball that has been memorized, it would keep this down, and that would create an AND gate, which would activate this. And this AND gate actually doesn't do anything by itself because it's an AND gate. So what needs to happen is it needs to be powered. So right now it's currently getting powered by 2 things. So let's get a button real quick. Normally, it would be getting powered by not only that torch. This redstone does not only get powered by that torch, but also that torch. So even though this is down, it's not triggering, and that's how I can multiply it. The number of times we unpower this, so say we press it once, each one of these releases an entire stack of slime balls. But we can trigger this multiple times. So that was once. We can do that again. That's twice. We can do that again. That's 3 times. And so it multiplies the amount of times, and that's basically how it would work. But there's a long time in between, so you have enough time to sort out your items and stuff like that. So that's basically how one section works. But together, it all works very, very harmoniously. So which one was, I said 6. I'm pretty sure I memorized it in 6. So that is, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is the best recipe that we just memorized. So right here it's like stone and redstone torches and stuff like that. Or maybe maybe this isn't 6. I don't know. Maybe it's this one. Aha. Okay, but I'm not sure if it's this one or not. Whatever, it's one of these that memorize the recipe. I should really put labels on them. Oops. So basically the recipe would get memorized, and when the recipe is memorized, it will go in, and let's find one that actually has a recipe that is currently memorized. I remember I pretty much forgot all of them. So this one looks like it's a dispenser, so that's right over here. This is associated with a redstone dust, and then it has 7 cobble. Something like that, 5 cobble. I don't know what this recipe is. Whatever. Because right now, the droppers, the item sorters down there, are associated with cobble. So it says, okay, we need 5 cobble, 1 whatever this is, and whatever that is, and that. Those 3 things. So basically it would be able to memorize that that's the recipe that it needs. What that means is that when it's activated up here, it would be able to, oh no, my mouse died. Uno momento. Okay, I'm back. Okay, basically when this mouse, or when it was activated, it would trigger these to go down, and it would only trigger specific ones to stay down. So that means that the entire recipe would be repeated, and then when you put the items in, it would get like shot out. So obviously I simplified this a lot, but basically it's this entire thing, but the rest of these wires that you see over on this side, I probably should have done it on the other side since that's not all wiry. The rest of these wires are just wires that that each one of these goes into a specific button. For example, this button triggers all of those, and that button triggers all of those, etc., etc. I made 4 segments, so 4 sections of those, and in between I put a gap just because it made it a lot easier to wire, because the dispensers are staggered, so so that no items would get stuck and things like that. So basically the only hard part would be filling this. And if you are on a massive server, this is like the perfect build, because not only does it fill this, it also, you should always have the materials to fill this, it also dispenses them relatively quickly, because just the process saying like this is what we need to do only takes that much time before it dispenses items. And it will constantly dispense items once every like 15 seconds, so you need to, depending on the complexity of the recipe, you really need to like go fast. So I can run through some more logic. That's like the main part of it though, so there are different things that I should probably run through. So how I got the recipe to memorize is my mouse died again. Unreal. Okay. So there is a so in each one of these there's a minecart, and this minecart picks up items from here. And in here is when you confirm your recipe and it's dispensed out. All of these items then go in response in like sequential order, and they go run along until it matches something. And there are a specific number of items, so there's 7 cobble here, 3 redstone torches here, and each item is associated with 1 item in the recipe. For example, if you used a dispenser, it would take up all 7 cobble slots and then 1 redstone dust slot, wherever that may be. And then it would basically activate that AND gate. And in order to memorize it, you would power one of these 3, and it would trigger along here. And since it's an AND gate, if it's powered, if it's in this short-term sensory memory, if it's powered, it will go along the entire wire, and it will allow for it to be memorized in one of these units. The units then can be read by the comparator, and if the comparator is being read, then it will basically determine the recipe, and that's essentially how it works. So what are the benefits of having a thing like this? So I've probably already like said this, and I will just reiterate it again since I've kind of gathered my thoughts now, is that this vertical like memorization is not only is it infinitely expandable, so basically you can memorize as many different recipes as you want. Just for simplicity, I allowed this machine to memorize 10. You could put this from world border to like from world max light to world limit or whatever, and that would obviously increase the amount of recipes you could memorize. It would also decrease the efficiency of the memorization process, but honestly the memorization process doesn't take that long because it only needs to happen once per recipe. So I said 10 was probably about a good number for a server like Prototech, which is a server that I'm on, which this is designed for. So you can have your pistons, dispensers, whatever you need, and it's normally pretty easy to get out. So that's essentially how that whole thing works. And that's the logic of the size of it. So the minecarts go in sequential order because there's there's about a 3 tick time that it requires to actually recognize that it has a recipe in it, so I don't want it double triggering, so that's why I spaced out the minecarts, then I just have an RS NOR latch in here to file them back in. Over here on the other hand, when you use a recipe, so let's say we use, this should be a comparator recipe. Up here, the comparator recipe will get put in. Oh, I forgot the comparator recipe. I forgot about that. I reset all of the recipes. Okay, let's go to 6. Okay, this recipe. So use this recipe. This is the one that we just did. I think. Hopefully I didn't forget it. Yeah, so see how some of these are, okay, there we go. So this is 6. So these are the items that are dispensed, or the ones that are currently down now. And that's how it would know. But basically, since these are the only ones that are being triggered at the current moment, only some of these AND gates are activated. From there, it's like primed and ready because the recipe is memorized. Basically, I transferred the recipe from down there into this short-term memory up here. And that's what these pistons are reading. From there, this minecart would come up from the bottom. It would come up and circle up, and it would put a specific number of items in here. The specific number of items into this dropper that's under there that you can't really see. And this specific number of items would tell how many times this thing should trigger. So it would trigger once, go around, and the timing would happen, and then it would just shoot an item out, and it would go around and shoot an item out, etc., until the items ran out. So basically, you could put 50 items in there, and there would be 50 stacks you would receive. And each time that happens, it goes into this entire little thing, and basically that just goes to each one of these little levels, and that activates an AND gate on each of these levels. So right here, this is an AND gate, that's an AND gate, that's an AND gate that I showed over there, and basically it's all staggered into each other. So that's how it's able to multiply it. So even though it looks kind of complicated, it's actually really not. One of the things that I thought I should probably run through, which I'll run through over there, is how I actually got these to dispense. So right now there are 16 dispensers, 16, and I triggered them 4 times, so each one of these releases a stack at a time. I thought that was like a pretty decent compromise between having one stack trigger 64 times, which would take a bit of time, and having one versus having 64 dispensers. So basically the way that this works is I use a little bit of comparator stuff. So when this is triggered, so this would turn on, this would turn off. And since it's connected to a a monostable circuit, which pushes this up. When this is pushed up, the signal will go through, and the signal strength is very important for this because the way that these are normally memorization units. So if I put a block here, that would memorize the signal strength. So yeah, I would just stay like that. But since I put a dust right there, it slowly, but not very slowly, loses memory. So with 2 stacks of items in here, that's like the comparator level of 2 or 3. It loses 1 power every single time it goes around here, and that's 2 ticks. And that entire time, this thing is powered and it's triggering. And while the clock is powered and triggering, it's triggering all of these dispensers. So that's basically how it works, and it's pretty fast. So in case you didn't realize how I did the item collection, it's pretty rudimentary stuff. There's just a massive ice water stream, and it collects down to here, and it takes about 10 seconds for this distance to be traveled for the amount of items that I have. And then it will go down into here and drop in, and that's where you're standing. So basically, not only is this expandable to memorize as many recipes as you want, but you could theoretically memorize any recipe in the game. Right now I only have a certain number of items, and you need to have multiple items. So for example, if you wanted to memorize a slime block, you would need 9 slime balls, 9 slime ball slots. So you put, right now I have my 2 slime balls at the end, so you put like a bunch more there. So you can memorize technically any recipe, but you only need like a maximum of 9 of each specific item for these. So it wouldn't actually take that much, and based on the number of things that get memorized that are used in crafting, you could actually make it so that every single recipe could be crafted in this setup. Additionally, which I wanted to point out, is you don't need this memory section if you don't want it. So if you wanted to make it faster, just you could put 2 points in the argument, you'd bring this section up to here, and it would just memorize the recipe right here. So basically replacing that section and putting it in directly into here, so just taking out this entire quick access. However, the recipe would need to memorize every single time. And you would need to insert the recipe every single time so that it can adapt. So, yeah, this is basically just a massive, kind of just like a little memorization unit made out of simple parts. And I hope you enjoyed this explanation. I know I had fun making this, so if anybody has any ideas on how to improve the efficiency, things like that, I would be more than happy to hear all about it. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope that you have had a good time with me. That's not even my recording button. F11. Nope. Oh my goodness.